It's a ballot bombshell. Colorado's Supreme Court boots former President Trump from the primary ballot. And according to that decision, Trump's actions in the run-up to the January 6th Capitol attack disqualify him from being on the state's 2024 primary ballot.
Yeah, the Trump campaign says this isn't the last word, vowing to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. But with the state's primary less than 2 months away, the high court justices must decide quickly if they will hear an appeal. An explosive ruling from the Colorado Supreme Court barring former President Trump from the state's 2024 primary ballot because he, quote, engaged in insurrection in trying to overturn the 2020 election is setting the stage for a U.S. Supreme Court appeal that could decide his eligibility in all 50 states. Mr. Trump calling it a sad day in America, as even his Republican primary rivals came to his defense.
I do not believe Donald Trump should be prevented from being president of the United States by any court. I think he should be prevented from being president of the United States by the voters of this country.
I would pledge to withdraw from the Colorado GOP primary ballot unless Trump or every other candidate is also able to run.
Noting they did not reach their conclusions lightly, the Colorado justices ruled 4-3 that Mr. Trump is disqualified from being president again because of his role leading up to the January 6th Capitol attack, citing the Constitution's 14th Amendment that says no one can serve as an officer of the United States who engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the U.S. Similar challenges in other states have proven unsuccessful. President Biden would not comment on the legal case.
Well, now whether the 14th Amendment applies, I'll let the court make that decision. But he certainly supported an insurrection, and no question about it.
Former President Trump is already fundraising off the Colorado decision that his campaign called politically motivated and completely flawed. The ruling is on hold as the Trump team vows to appeal.
Joining me now to talk more about this ruling in Colorado is Robert Sedler. He's a distinguished professor of law at Wayne State University, where he teaches courses on constitutional law. Robert Sedler, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here.
Tell us what immediate impact, if any, does this Colorado decision have?
The decision has been put on hold until January. Very likely, the Supreme Court will grant review. This is a case where it decides, the lower court decide a constitutional question that has not yet been settled by the Supreme Court, but should be. I think that the decision is erroneous. It is likely to be reversed by the Supreme Court. I don't usually make predictions, but I think this will be.
So essentially, this decision doesn't really mean anything right away because his name could still appear on the ballot. They've got to get those ballots printed, and unless they appeal very quickly, there's probably no chance that his name will not appear on the ballot. Is that the way you understand it?
No, again, the ruling has been put on hold. So as you're quite right in your observation, there is no limitation on the state of Colorado, including Trump's name on the ballot, because the decision is on hold. So it's not in effect yet, because the court put its ruling on hold until January.
Right.
The Supreme Court, when it wants to, can act very expeditiously. It could grant review, schedule the case for argument in January, and decide within a couple of weeks.
Right. But this decision only impacts the state of Colorado. It has nothing to do with other states.
That is correct. But again, I think that the Supreme Court is likely to try to dispose of this case very expeditiously, quite possibly when the court reconvenes in January. It will decide to hear the case. It will expedite briefing and argument. I suspect it could be decided if the court wants to do it, which I think it will, and I think it should. This is very significant because it would deny the voters of Colorado the right to choose a candidate in the Republican primary.
Robert Sedler, we appreciate you taking time to talk to our viewers. Thank you so much for your insight.